Master, today we dive into Chapter 8, covering the Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophies. How do they respond to the Buddhists and the Samkhayans we studied earlier?
They launch a fierce criticism against them. The Buddhists upset common sense by claiming all things are momentary. Nyaya and Vaisesika take a staunch realist view, things are permanent until destroyed, and they exist independently of whether anyone perceives them.
And how do they critique Samkhya?
They reject the Samkhya doctrine of Satkaryavada, which claims the effect already exists in the cause. Nyaya argues that if the jug already existed in the clay, you could carry water in a lump of clay. An effect is a completely new creation.
Are Nyaya and Vaisesika a single system, or were they developed separately?
They originated separately but eventually merged into one great system. The Vaisesika Sutras by Kannada are very ancient, likely pre-Buddhistic. They focus heavily on physics, categories of reality, and unseen forces like Adrishta.
And the Nyaya Sutras?
They were compiled by Gautama, developing from Anvikshiki, the science of debate. The Nyaya Sutras focus on logic, epistemology, and the 16 categories of disputation. Over centuries, commentators seamlessly blended their metaphysics and logic together.
What are the fundamental building blocks of reality according to this system?
They classified all perceivable reality into 6 ultimate types or categories, called padarthas. First is dravya, or substance. It is the independent resting place. Second is guna, the qualities that inhere in substances. Third is karma, which here means physical action or movement.
What are the remaining 3?
Samanya, which is universality or the genus. 6 shesha, the ultimate particularity or uniqueness of atoms. And samavaya, the inseparable relation of inherence, like a whole existing in its parts.
Could you break down the category of dravya, or substance?
Certainly. There are 9 ultimate substances. The first 4 are physical and atomic, earth, water, fire, and air. The 5th is akasha, or ether, an all-pervading substratum for sound.
Are time and space included as substances?
Yes. Kala, time, and dik, space, are infinite, unitary substances. The final 2 are Atman, the all-pervading soul, and Manas, the atomic mind which connects the soul to the senses.
What falls under the second category, guna, or quality?
Qualities reside only in substances. They include sensory properties like color, taste, odor, touch, and sound. They also include mathematical properties like number, measure, and separateness.
Do mental states count as qualities?
Yes, absolutely. Unlike Samkhya, which makes intelligence a separate principle, Nyaya considers knowledge, pleasure, pain, desire, and effort simply as gunas, or qualities, that are generated within the substance of the soul.
Let us return to causation. How does Nyaya explain the production of a new effect?
They use the doctrine of Asatkaryavada. The effect is a completely new entity, generated by a specific collocation of causes. There are 3 types of causes, the samavayi, or material cause, like the clay.
And the others?
The asamavayi, or non-material cause, which are the qualities within the material, like the color of the clay causing the color of the jug. Finally, the nimitta, or instrumental cause, which includes the potter and the wheel.
How do they explain the cycles of the universe? Do they believe in cosmic dissolution?
Yes, they believe in pralaya. God, or Ishvara, wishing to give living beings respite from suffering, suspends the cosmic forces. This causes all gross elements to disintegrate back into isolated, motionless atoms. The souls remain in an inanimate suspension.
How does creation begin again?
At the time of Srishti, Ishvaras will activates the Adrishta, the unseen destiny residing in souls. This kinetic force causes the air atoms to vibrate and combine into binary molecules, sparking a chain reaction that rebuilds the gross world.
Samkhya and the Buddhists denied God. How does Nyaya prove Ishvara exists?
Through strict logical inference. Nyaya argues that the world, with its mountains and rivers, is an arrangement of parts. Therefore, it is an effect. And just as every effect like a jug requires an intelligent creator, the universe requires a supreme creator.
But an atheist might say we don't see a creator making a tree grow.
Nyaya replies that our inability to see the creator doesn't mean he doesn't exist. Since the rule, all effects have causes is unbroken, the world must have an omniscient creator who organizes it in accordance with the karma of souls.
When a clay pot is baked in a fire, its color changes from black to red. How does their atomic theory explain this chemical change?
This caused a famous split between the two schools. Vaisesika holds the Pilupaka theory. Heat impact completely disintegrates the pot into single atoms, changes the color in the free atoms, and recombines them with inconceivable velocity.
That sounds incredibly modern. What was the Nyaya view?
Nyaya held the Pitharapaka theory. They argued the pot doesn't disintegrate. Instead, heat corpuscles penetrate the porous body of the intact molecule and directly change its qualities from within.
How do these schools explain the origin of our knowledge?
Unlike Samkhya, which uses a mystical reflection of consciousness, Nyaya views the generation of knowledge as a purely mechanical production. It is an effect produced by a specific collocation of causes called pramana.
What makes up this collocation?
It requires the physical proximity of the object, the capacity of the sense organs, the attention of the mind, and the soul. When these factors align, knowledge is produced on the same plane as any physical phenomenon, illuminating the object.
How many sources of valid knowledge, or pramasanas, do they accept?
Nyaya accepts exactly 4. Pratyaksha, which is direct perception. Anumana, which is logical inference. Opamana, which is analogy. And Shabda, which is the testimony of reliable authority.
Do other schools accept the same 4?
No. The Buddhists accept only 2, perception and inference. Even the older Vaisesika sutras only explicitly defended perception and inference, though they tacitly accepted the scriptures. Nyaya stands firm on these 4 distinct pathways.
Let us examine pratyaksha, perception. Is it an instantaneous event?
No, it unfolds in stages. When the eye first hits an object, we have nirsikskalpa perception. It is indeterminate. You see the form, the color, and the universal class, but it is not yet associated with a name or a subject-predicate relation.
When does it become a distinct thought, like, this is a cow?
That is the second stage, sasikskalpa, or determinate perception. The mind integrates the sensory data with memory and names, presenting the object fully qualified. The Buddhists claimed this stage was an illusion, but Nyaya defends its absolute validity.
For perception to happen, there must be sense contact. But how can an eye touch a quality like redness?
Nyaya brilliantly categorizes 6 types of sense contact. When the eye meets a jug, that is direct contact, samyojiye. But redness inheres in the jug, so the eye perceives color via indirect contact, samyakta samavaya.
And the concept of redness itself?
That is the universal genus of color. The eye grasps it through a third level of contact, samyakta samevaita samavaya. They even describe special contacts for how the ear perceives sound within the ether.
The second pramasaina is anomasaina, inference. This is Nyaya's greatest contribution, isn't it?
Indeed. Inference is finding a hidden truth through a visible mark. The subject, like a hill, is the paksha. The hidden truth, like fire, is the sadhya. The visible mark, the smoke, is the linjye or hetu.
How do they structure this logically?
For debate, they developed a rigorous 5-step syllogism. 1. The hill is fiery. 2. Because it has smoke. 3. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire, like in a kitchen. 4. This hill has smoke. 5. Therefore, it is fiery.
But how do we know for sure that smoke always means fire?
That is the problem of Vyapti, invariable concomitance. Nyaya insists it is not enough to just see smoke and fire together. You must also establish negative instances, where there is no fire, there is absolutely no smoke.
What if there is a hidden variable?
That is called an opadi, a conditional factor. For example, fire only produces smoke if the wood is green. To establish a true Vyapti, you must observe widely to guarantee the relationship is unconditional and immediate.
What about the third and fourth pramasayanas, analogy and testimony?
Opamana, or analogy, occurs when you associate an unknown thing with a name based on similarity. If a forester tells you a wild ox looks like a cow, and later you see one in the woods and recognize it, that is opamana.
And shabda, testimony.
Shabda is knowledge derived from the utterances of infallible, truthful persons. The supreme example is the Vedas. According to Nyaya, the Vedas are perfectly valid not by themselves, but because they are the direct utterances of the omniscient Ishvara.
If I look at a floor and see there is no jug, is non-existence a real thing I am perceiving?
Yes. Nyaya asserts that negation, abhava, is directly perceived. When your eye contacts the empty ground, and you remember the jug, you perceive the non-existence of the jug as a qualifying attribute of the ground itself.
The Buddhists completely rejected this, didn't they?
The Buddhists argued negation is just a mental concept based on non-perception. But Nyaya counters that perceiving an empty space generates a distinct cognition of, is not, proving negation is a real, independent category of experience.
Are there different varieties of this non-existence?
Vaisesika classifies 4 kinds. Pragabhava is negation before production, like a jug before the potter makes it. Dvamsabhava is negation after destruction, like the jug after it is smashed.
And the other 2?
Anyonyabhava is mutual negation, such as a cow is not a horse. Finally, Atyantabhava is absolute, eternal negation. For example, even if a jug is placed here, its non-existence in other places remains eternally undestroyed.
Since Nyaya evolved from debate, did they map out the rules of argumentation?
Extensively. They define Taka as deliberation to resolve doubt. A sincere debate for truth is Vada. But they also catalogued defensive tactics, Jalpa, or wrangling to defeat an opponent, and Sixtanda, purely destructive criticism.
Why would a spiritual system teach wrangling and trickery?
As a protective measure. If an arrogant disputant tried to humiliate a teacher and shake the faith of his students, the teacher needed these devices, along with a deep knowledge of logical fallacies, or hetvabhasas, to defend the truth.
Ultimately, what is their view of the soul and its final destiny?
Nyaya views the Atman, the soul, as all-pervading and eternal, but completely unconscious in its natural state. Consciousness, feelings, and will only spark into existence when the soul contacts the mind and the body.
Then what is apavargya, or liberation?
It is not a state of blissful joy, as the Vedantins claim. By removing false knowledge, karma is destroyed, and the soul is permanently separated from the mind. Liberation is a negative state of absolute painlessness, passive, inert, and beautifully pure.